In this video, I'm going to be talking about how your thyroid hormones affect your testosterone production. So I'm going to go over how testosterone is produced, how thyroid is produced, how they come together, what are the signs that you have low thyroid, and I'm going to be talking about the mistake people make when it comes to optimizing their testosterone. They're focusing on the wrong things rather than fundamentals, and I'm going to be showing you at the end how you can optimize your thyroid hormones so you can have higher testosterone levels as a man. So that being said, let's get started with the basics. So I created this diagram so you have a visual representation of how everything happens within the body. This is not the exact way, but it's the simplified version for you to really understand of what's going on. So let's get into it. So you have your hypothalamus, which sends out GnRH, which communicates to the anterior pituitary to produce LH and FSH. LH, being luteinizing hormone, stimulates the testicles, specifically the Leydig cells, to produce testosterone. And there is FSH, which stimulates the Thyroid cells in the testicles to produce sperm. This is why men who inject testosterone, they stop this entire process. Thus, why men who inject testosterone have issues with fertility and sperm production, and this is why the balls get really small, because this entire process is not needed because they're getting external testosterone production. So 95% of testosterone is produced in the testicles. That goes into the bloodstream. Also 5% of testosterone is produced in the adrenal glands through DHEA, and I'm going to go over even more in depth how the hormones play with each other. And this is how women also produce testosterone. Women don't have testicles, and this is how they produce testosterone, because women have testosterone as well. So 5%, then that goes into the bloodstream, and then you have 100% testosterone after all of that. And then through the liver, there's something called SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, which binds 95 to 98% of the testosterone, depending on your liver health and your other issues. And the 2 to 5% of free testosterone is then able to elicit certain effects in the body. Testosterone can be converted to DHT. I've made a video on the DHT-Testosterone Connection if you want to check that out, and how beneficial DHT is. And then other way is through testosterone can be converted into estrogen through the aromatase. And with that being in place, I want to make a very important point, that one of the reasons why, and you'll understand more in a bit why, maybe you've seen my content talking about more about thyroid health, things like that, not prioritizing testosterone, because you need to look at the foundation. Because I've worked with clients who had high testosterone levels, 700, 800, over 1,000, and they still had issues, right? And shout out to Danny Roddy, he made a very important post which made a lot of sense to me, but I wasn't able to pinpoint it, but he made sense here. He talks about how, let's say your total cholesterol is high, which signifies low thyroid hormone. Your prolactin's high, your TSH is elevated, or it's low due to high stress hormones, depending on the situation. You can have high testosterone, but the high testosterone is there because it's supporting the stress system, because testosterone can be converted into estrogen. So you can have high testosterone because your body needs it to be converted into estrogen, and then this huge cascade. The goal is proper thyroid function, prolactin, things like that. Once that's checked out, then if you look at testosterone, it will give you a better reading of where you're at when it comes to androgens and things like that. So yeah, that being said, got that out of the way. So testosterone can be used differently by your body through DHT or estrogen. Also, testosterone can do its own thing as well. This is how exercise improves testosterone production as well. But yeah, that's how it works within that. And when you see a lot of advice that you see online when it comes to testosterone optimization, they tend to focus on this, which is fine and dandy, but you can do certain things that increase your stress hormones, and thus on paper your testosterone is increasing, but the reason why testosterone is increasing is because you're upregulating the estrogen response. Other ways people can have higher testosterone on paper is by activating the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, which means less testosterone is being converted to DHT, and thus on paper you have higher testosterone. So looking at it from that perspective, ultimately I hope that's not the goal, because ultimately the goal is accomplishing androgen density, like so, and androgen density within the brain, so you have better mood, drive, motivation, things like that, self-confidence, whatever it is. And using certain herbs or certain supplements or certain tactics to get higher testosterone on the piece of paper won't result in the goal that you're trying to achieve, because you want to start with the foundation, which is proper metabolic function, which is, I'll go over how that plays into all of that. So when your body has enough cholesterol, which one of the signs I showed on the post is someone with high cholesterol, which means the cholesterol is not being converted and this process is not going on. So if you have, your body takes cholesterol, vitamin A, and thyroid hormone, and in the mitochondria it produces pregnenolone. Then pregnenolone is then a foundation to like progesterone, DHEA, which we've seen on the diagram, which is testosterone, then DHT, and it can also be converted to estrogen. So the point that I'm trying to make is, rather than focusing on this, is you should focus on this aspect, which is upregulating your metabolic rate, which is how thyroid hormones connect with testosterone. When you improve cell respiration, higher metabolic rate, your micronutrient deficiencies are fixed, you're eating enough food from the right foods, your lifestyle is in check, your prolactin is low, your cholesterol is in the right range, your vitamin D is good, TSH is good. This should work optimally for you to produce testosterone, DHT in an optimal way. So now, what are the signs that you might have compromised thyroid function? So in the community, this school.com/brotherhood, in the classroom you have a course, and I'll go over one of the first lessons which I go over, is the main signs would be like low heart rate, low temperature. And the beauty about this is, at home, first thing in the morning, or how you're feeling right now, you can literally check where your body is at, rather than spending a lot of money on these expensive testosterone tests, this and the other. And doing all these tests are not very realistic to do long-term and consistently. But checking your heart rate and checking your temperature can tell you a lot what's going on. Because if your heart rate and temperature is high, because one of the byproducts of a proper metabolic rate is ATP, energy, and heat. You breathe deeper as well, because there's a higher Haldane and Burr effect, which you consume more oxygen, so you'll feel warmer. So if your temperature is 36.4 to 37 degrees Celsius, that's a good sign. Next thing is, you want to make sure it's not elevated due to a stress response, because if your thyroid hormones are super low, your body will compensate with high adrenaline and cortisol, which can suppress the TSH. That's why someone might get a TSH reading and it can be super low, saying, oh, it's all good. but in reality it's low because normally TSH is low in a healthy person because your thyroid function is optimal. But in some people, TSH is low because stress hormones are super high. One way to check if your temperature or heart rate is elevated due to a stress response, firstly, you'll feel anxious and stressed. Secondly, if you eat something like sugar or salt or just a good meal, check how your temperature and heart rate responds to that. Does it increase or does it decrease? If it decreases, that means the food is shutting down the stress response and relaxing your body. If it's increasing or staying the same, that's what you want. Same thing with the heart rate. When the heart rate is beating good, that means higher metabolic rate. So looking at those signs, and that's something you can literally do right now at home and just go based off of that. But other symptoms that can come up is things like fatigue, increased sensitivity to cold, constipation, dry skin, weight gain, puffy face, hoarseness, muscle weakness, elevated blood cholesterol levels, muscle aches, tenderness and stiffness, pain, stiffness or swelling in your joints, heavier than normal or irregular menstrual periods, that's with women, thinning hair, slow heart rate, depression, impaired memory, your mind is racing all the time, things like anxiety. So all of those things can signify that you have impaired thyroid function. Another thing you can do to dig deeper into thyroid function, your metabolic rate, is reading this book, Hypothyroidism, the Unsuspected Illness. Highly recommend. And that being said, I made this video shorter, but hopefully you understand the connection between thyroid and testosterone and why thyroid optimization benefits your testosterone. And this is why I've been talking about it more, and hopefully you understand why I'm talking about it and why I don't preach a lot of these supplements. I get a lot of companies reaching out to me, oh, we'll pay you X amount per week to shout out our supplements. But I know it doesn't work. Maybe on paper you'll have higher testosterone levels, but that's not what's going to drive your results. You want to do it fundamentally, right? So yeah, that being said, if you want to continue with this little course which goes over for optimizing your testosterone levels and your metabolic rate, like foods, how to set up your calories, how to monitor everything, it's in the Brotherhood community. I'll leave a link down below. You can just join. It's a public community. It's $5 a month. And yeah, that being said, I'll see you later. Adios.